Hey loves, it's Elle and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to me. Hello to all of our new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining the Elle Squad. And today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking all about how to multi-primer. What that means basically is how to use different primers on the face for skin that is dehydrated and that has large pores, which is going to be for the majority of us going into fall. So before we get going, hit that subscribe button, give me a little thumbs up, share this with somebody that you think might like it, and let's do it. So when I do somebody's makeup, a client, I don't always use one primer. For the most part, I actually will customize a primer routine for that moment in their life and for whatever we are doing. When we're going into fall, a lot of us have much drier skin than we normally do, but we're still suffering from loss of glow, pore size, texture on our skin, and we can't use just this big old, hydrating primer all over our face because that totally negates our pores and texture and things like that. It will exacerbate it. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to use two different primers to get that ultimate kind of signature glow that my clients get from myself and I do on myself. So let's start talking about some of the recommendations I make. And as I say often, please do not get focused on the products here. Get more focused on the technique and the ingredients that I suggest. I'm just going to be highlighting some of the primers I suggest and that live in my kit so you guys can have a starting point. I will list everything below. So when you are dealing with large pores, for the most part, on average, those large pores will be somewhere in the middle here, probably sometimes on the chin, a little bit right here in between the brow. So basically the T-zone. But then we want to be glowy. So in order to give that hydration to the skin that it's lacking, I always suggest a hydrating primer or a illuminizing primer, something like these. The biggest kind of takeaway here is that, again, you don't need a million primers, but you are going to need one if you suffer from large pores and still want to glow and still want your makeup to last all day. You are going to have to use a couple different primers. So I'm going to talk about the ones that I really recommend. I love the Milk Blur Stick. To blur pores and fine lines, unfortunately, there are not a lot of primers that are not silicone based that will do the job. Silicone has a way of smoothing over surfaces, so it helps texture, it helps kind of blur imperfections, it fills in pores. So, I'm not a huge lover of silicone-based items. Let's just say, for argument of sake, that all of my skincare that I have used does not have silicones or anything on there. I have already applied my moisturizer, I have already applied my sunscreen, so it's pretty locked in, so there is a nice barrier between my skin and the silicone, all right? So what I suggest is taking a silicone-based primer. Again, Milk Blur Stick is one of my favorites. I absolutely love the Benefits Porefessional, and then their new one called the Brightening Porefessional. Especially for my really oily girls, I love the Origins Original Skin Pore Perfecting Cooling Primer. This is really, really fantastic. And then you can also do something really easy, which is the Burt's Bees 2-in-1 Diaper Cream and Baby Powder. This is going to control oil. All these will control oil, but this is like for heavy duty. You really have an oilier T-zone. You need some protection there. So that's what we're going to apply right now is our first primer. I always recommend applying your silicone-based mattifying pore refining primer first, and the application is going to be important. For me, I gravitate towards the Milk Blur Stick, but I'm also going to show you how to use the Benefit Porefessional on the other side just so you guys can see the difference. This is super easy to use. This is all I do. You basically, with this one, just kind of swipe it all over the areas that you might need some help. With pore refining primers, you really need to pat the product into the area that you want it to conceal that pore. If you wipe it, it basically will wipe right over that pore and not fill it in. So pore refining primers actually fill in your pores, or for texture, they basically create a smoother canvas over that texture. And so you're going to see the difference between the two sides of the face. I'm actually going to scoot you guys in so you can see this a little bit better. So you can also see that it's given a blurring effect. I sometimes will go under my eye just a little bit with this primer. On top of the nose is always good. The one thing that you do need to remember besides patting motions is that you can apply too much of a silicone-based primer. It will start to peel and drip and do all sorts of weird things, so please go in sheer layers. You've seen that I went one time in and then I have my finger on it and I'm kind of just patting a little extra in where I see I might need some extra love in that area. I'm going to show you how the Benefit Porefessional one works just because I think it's interesting. I'm just going to use, so the Porefessional is kind of a pink color, the brightening one, and little bit goes a long way. I'm taking it on my hand and I'm just pushing it into the area. See how it brightens the middle of the face up a little bit? I don't mind this at all. But the one thing about this primer I will say is you do need to let it have some time to dry down. The Milk one seems to dry down very, very quickly. This one does need time to kind of sink in and do its job. And I do like to go with this type of primer right over my lip line. It helps to smooth out that area and give that lip line a little bit more staying power, as well as it helps to fill in some of those fine lines. So you can see this side is a little bit brighter than this side. Again, you'll know though that I usually, on the most part, will reach for my Milk Blur Stick. I just find it to be a superior product. It's a lot cleaner than the Benefit one, but and it's cruelty-free. So to me, this is a rock star one. So you need to let that sit. That's why I say you need to do your pore refining primer first. Now I'm going to use, I love the Charlotte Tilbury Wonder Glow and her illuminizing primer. I love the Physicians Formula Spotlight Primer, Becca's Backlight Priming Filter. I mean, Bobbi Brown's Broad Spectrum SPF 35 Primer. I mean, there's a lot of them that I really enjoy, but I'm going to show you this because it is a little bit more of a drugstore option and I want to be cognizant of that. So this basically will go around the face where you want the glow to be and where your other primer did not go. You do not really want to put this over your other primer. This is such a beautiful primer. When I reviewed the foundation and this primer together, I was hooked. I'm going to put just a little bit around this area and right here on this cheekbone area. And all over here. What this is going to do, especially this primer and ones like this, it's not going to exacerbate texture, and it's not going to exacerbate fine lines around the eyes because you will go over, obviously, with some sort of foundation, some sort of CC cream, whatever it is. But if you apply an illuminizing primer like this to the center of your face or wherever you have large pores, it will exacerbate the illusion or the look of your pores because it has light reflecting properties in it. So it's going to reflect off of all of those different aspects of that enlarged pore. So that's why I always recommend using a mattifying, pore refining primer wherever you need that for that kind of skin condition, okay? Or that skin issue, not condition. But that's basically it. Honestly, you're gonna let this sit. I'd say brush your teeth if you want to. Actually, apply it around here. So maybe just do a little bit of your hair, put in your earrings, or do whatever you want to do. Make sure this does have a good 2 to 3 minutes to sink in, do what it's supposed to do, set, and then you're gonna apply your foundation with a beauty blender or your fingers over it. The reason why I say that is because if you're applying it with a brush over your pore refining primer, you're going to be moving that primer. Okay, so you need to be using tapping motions over that pore refining area. Of course, where you've done the glow, you don't need to really worry about it because it can be moved because it's just about the glow, okay? So that is it. All right, so this is the skin without any foundation on it. You can see it has a beautiful glow. This section is all nice and taken care of. It feels very, very weightless, and it's just really gonna come through that foundation really, really nicely. The last tip I will tell you is to take a setting spray, probably one with alcohol, so let's not make this an everyday habit, but spray your beauty blender with a couple sprays of your setting spray, and you can actually apply your primer with it. So for example, you're gonna spray your beauty blender. You are going to kind of, make sure it's not too wet. You're gonna put a little bit of primer on your beauty blender like this, and you're gonna start pushing it into the skin. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to further push that primer into the skin, as well as give it even more staying power. I hear a lot from you. I hear a lot from our community that sometimes when they use those pore refining primers, they slip all over the skin or they don't stay. That's another fantastic way of getting that primer to do what you want it to do. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.